Okay, good afternoon and welcome along to this month's Aspen webinar. The topic of the webinar today is all about implementation. So I'm going to take you through some slides which give you an overview into how we manage our Aspen implementation with you. And yeah, just have a look at some examples as well. So just to recap, what is Aspen Discovery? It is the front end to your library management system where your library users can do a search across multiple resources from one platform. So they can search in Aspen to find material in your library catalogue, but they can also find material in your ebook collection, your e-audiobook collection, indexed websites, any archival and photographic collection type things that you may have ingested in, as well as obviously integration with discovery services like EBSCO Discovery Service and Summon. And as well as offering the one-stop shop for search purposes, users as well can have a look at their own account. They can do things like renew their items, pay their fines online, and so on. So it offers a great deal of functionality. And as part of an implementation project, we help you set that up to work in exactly the way you require within your library service. So the project will take you through enabling features, designing it, and just basically learning how it works as well. So Aspen itself has 4 goals, which are listed on screen here, to create that unified experience, to maximize user engagement with the library, to connect every library user with a personalized and accessible home base, and also to empower the library administrators to customize and expand that Aspen platform. So to start with, you are allocated an implementation team. And these people will consist of your account manager. So that'll be somebody like myself who looks after your library contract and has that sort of relationship with you, manages your account. You'll also have an implementation team, which consists of a project manager, who is your main point of contact throughout an implementation and who will be the one delivering the workshops that I'm going to speak about just shortly. And you'll also have a technical lead who, as the name implies, will manage the technical aspect of the implementation. So set up the server and make sure that things like the domain name and email and everything like that is all set up and working as required. And in addition to that, the implementation team also will consist of key members of your team within the library service. So I'm just going to pause there before I take you through what an implementation consists of. And I'm just going to take a look at some of our libraries systems here. So this is Sefton Libraries. You can see that they've got navigational links out to various areas, including events integration, and they've got a carousel that you can move between, which advertises all their events as well. They've got a banner in the middle of their screen here, and then they come down and you've got all these panels that allow you to read back about things like the Sefton Looking Back collection and so on. They've also got their Instagram feed embedded in here, and then they've got some new books in stock carousel, and it continues down. So they've got quite a lot of information on their homepage. If I have a look at the Newcastle one, now Newcastle Libraries, if you have a look at their Aspen implementation regularly, you'll see that it changes quite a lot. So now they're advertising the Summer Reading Challenge. They normally have they're themed to match something that's happening, whether it's something like Black History Month or Pride Month or whatever. So they do a lot of work with theirs on an ongoing basis. But again, they've got access, navigational access into other areas here, and then they've got their browse categories and the book covers appearing on here. Just having a look at Halton, theirs is similar. Again, you've got links out to things like self-registration, to their library's website, again, to events and meeting rooms. And now a couple of different ones. Middlesbrough Libraries, theirs is quite different. If you have a look, I mean, it immediately looks a little bit different because they don't have these browse categories front and centre like others have. They've got this sort of rotational thing here, and the facilities. Then they've got scroll bars for new books and stuff over on the right hand side, and they've got library hours and so on in here, and you can select your location. So if I was to change that to be Hemlington, I get details of the Hemlington open hours on here. So theirs looks a little bit different as well. And the final one, just to quickly have a look at, is one of our further education colleges. This is Glasgow Kelvin College. And again, this one's quite bright, quite vibrant, still similar in appearance with the browse categories and the navigational links, but they've got big header bars and just a little bit different. And they've got things like, if we come into their smart search guide, they've got a full sort of link to, they've put guides on how to use the Aspen platform as help pages accessible within Aspen itself as well. So how do we get from an out-the-box Aspen implementation to something with the wow factor like this and the others that we've looked at? Well, quite simply, we run a project. So just like a Koha library management system implementation, Aspen has its own implementation as well. And the remaining slides are just going to give you an overview of what's contained within that implementation and the things that how we manage it and the things that we cover during an implementation. So first of all, you get a project planning meeting. Now, your project planning meeting will have all the key stakeholders, so the account manager, the project manager, the technical leads, plus the relevant people from your library organisation. And you'll be given an agenda in advance which covers these key areas that we're going to be looking at just now. So your technical leads will give you an overview as to how the server's looked after and how we deal with things like the upgrades and the backups. They'll also talk to you about how you want it to be accessible from the website as well. So what domain name do you want to use? And we would work with your local IT people as well to ensure that that domain name and any emailing that you require is set up accordingly. We talk about configuration. So what features do you want to enable? And you don't have to have these all exactly right from the word go, but it gives your project manager a good insight into what you're trying to achieve with the end result. And it also allows that project manager to set things up as well before we start the workshop sessions. So they tend to start by looking at your current and existing OPAC to see if you've got things like self-registration enabled, if you've got things like interlibrary loans, purchase suggestions, that sort of thing. If they're all set up, then would you want them enabled in Aspen? So we have a bit of a discussion around some general configuration type things. We also have a discussion about the content within Aspen. So what are you wanting your users to find? What material are you wanting them to find when they do that single search in Aspen? So this is when we would start discussions about things like particular websites or particular collections of material that you want to be indexed and ingested into Aspen as well. We talk about how you want your Aspen to be themed. Now, by theme, if I just go back, by theme, I'm meaning how it looks, what its appearance is. So this is, you know, the banner and what we see on that front page. And Sefton's quite a different front page because they don't have the browse categories. So that's what we mean by a theme. And we talk about that initially at the project planning meeting, again, so that your team have got a little bit of a feel for what, you know, how it's going to look, and helps your project manager to sort of scope out the workshops accordingly as well. And we touch on what you want the website to look like as well, because don't forget, Aspen also offers the ability for the library's website to be all inclusive in there as well. So You can have all your pages contained within Aspen. You can have links out to other areas within Aspen as well. So again, the project planning meeting, we touch on that so that we get an idea of how to manage that that training session as well. Your project manager will also give you an overview of the training and the content of the sessions, and I'm going to take you through each of those in just a second. We also talk about what we call a design and build phase, and we share with you a checklist, which is, as you can now see on screen, simply just a spreadsheet that we would ask you to continue to populate throughout the course of the implementation. We've got different statuses here, so we work together to mark these complete, obviously, and you can see all the different comments. And during the course of the workshops, we come back and we look at the progress checklist, and we just sort of use this as a basis for some discussions as well. We also talk, and this is quite an important part, obviously, we look at the dates. So we schedule all the dates accordingly so that we know when you want to go live with the system. And then we sort of work backwards, if you like, in terms of working out when you're going to have each of your sessions. And yeah. So the workshops themselves, these are your sort of training sessions, but we call them workshops rather than training because they are shorter bursts of time, and they're really more about sort of working with you to get Aspen configured and set up in exactly the way that you want, as opposed to a show and tell type training session. So each of these workshops are delivered virtually using whatever platform that you need, so whether it's Zoom or Teams or whatever. There are 6 individual themed workshops. They last for approximately 1.5 hours. We do have slide decks to accompany all these workshops, which we share with you. And the very start of the session, we look back at that spreadsheet, that progress spreadsheet that we were just looking at a moment ago. And we start off by just sort of reviewing anything that's been added since we last spoke and see if we can sign any of them off as well. Obviously, we don't spend too long on that because we don't want to use up the time allocated to the workshop, but it is always how we start that process. And then at the end of the workshop session, we return back to that sheet as well, and we add anything new as relevant to there. So the workshops tend to follow the order that I've listed them in the slides. However, that's not an exact science. Sometimes your project manager will decide to mix up the order, and that's based on discussions with you to see, you know, maybe it's to do with staff availability. You need certain staff in for various ones and not others, and so on. But whatever the outcome, all 6 sessions will be covered during the implementation period. So the first of those is an introduction into the Aspen administration area. So we, first of all, take you through the process of accessing the administration area. So setting up your users, making sure they've got the relevant permissions to be able to do that. We have a look at some of the specific system settings. So things like setting up messages, looking at locations, talking a little bit about the terminology that's used and giving you an introduction into how you use the translation mode. We also can have a look at site usage and show you the different dashboards that are available. So all of that's kind of contained within Aspen administration, but it should be flagged that a lot of the workshops are still administration. So this is seen as more of a sort of setting up to work with Aspen in terms of setting up your users and things, because most of the workshops will still be done within the Aspen administration area. We have another workshop which is all about checking that the data is pulled across from other systems into Aspen and is all searchable as you would expect. So we talk about in my example here, assuming you've got a Koha library management system, but the same would apply for any library management system, as Aspen Discovery is LMS agnostic. So if you had, for example, the Symphony system underneath Aspen, then we would be checking the mappings are coming across from Symphony into Aspen okay. So we just do some checks to make sure that we're happy with how the data has been pulled across and is displaying in Aspen. And we also talk about other things like any open archive collection that you're harvesting and bringing across, on the need for any side loads or anything that you want to index website wise, that sort of thing. So it's really just a review of everything that you want to be indexed, making sure that it's all displaying correctly and it's all searchable. Look and feel. So this is when we sort of start that designing stage. So we're looking at branding here. And again, this is all done within the Aspen administration area. So we're looking at the colour schemes, what logos you want in there. Do you want browse categories? Do you want carousels? Do you want little slideshows? How do you want it to look? Basically, what do you want your homepage to be? Do you want it to be more customized, or do you want it to be kind of a general search? All of that sort of thing. So it really is, as the workshop is called, it's focusing on that look and feel of Aspen. We then offer a search experience workshop, and this is looking at it more from the end user's perspective. So your library members, how will they use Aspen and what will it look like for them? So this is where we talk about the different types of searches that are available. So things like a combined search, or being able to select a particular index from a search. We talk about the verbalization and how works are grouped together within Aspen. Again, offering the user a much richer experience. They see one record with all different formats of the works rather than several catalogue records for the same piece of material. We also look at things like configuring your facets and in creating placards and how you may want to use placards within Aspen. And those have been covered in previous webinars, and you can find details of them looking on our YouTube channel, looking back on previous webinars. But essentially your placards are those rectangular blocks of information that appear at the top of your search results, and they can be used for any number of purposes. And then we have the Web Builder workshop, and this is where we look a little bit outside of the searching and retrieval side of it, and we look at how Aspen can be used with its Web Builder functionality. So in essence, this is using Aspen to create your library website. So this is where we look at things like, what menu options do you want to have? What links are you putting on there? Are you creating any forms that you may want to use? What pages do you want? And again, if we just come out and have a look at an example. So this is our Web Builder functionality here. So we've got a link to Newcastle Library's website. When I hover over that, you can see that the URL will take me out to their actual website. So that's using that, but we've also got things like if I come in to look at this one here, we've got things like an online resources page. So this is a page within Aspen. We've got a link to meeting rooms, which is taking us out of Aspen to another website. If we go back in and look at Kelvin, they've got their links here. And when I mention menu links, this is a bit, I mean, in here, what do you want to appear to your users? If I click on like study skills, I've then got subdivisions. And if I come in and have a look at interactive study skills, for example, again, what you're seeing here is that they've built this page within Aspen. And if the student was interested in finding out a little bit more about writing skills, they can click on there. Notice we're still within Aspen here. And then they've obviously got a link. If I was a student, I'd be able to get into their VLE and get further resources that way. But in all cases, the student has been kept inside Aspen. So you've got the different types of web builder functionality on offer. You can create pages within Aspen, or you can create the links outside. And if I just quickly show you one more, so if I just go into our demo system, we do have, oh, where are we? We do have, when I sign in as myself, and I'll just get my two-factor authentication code. Because just to remind you, you can set up two-factor authentication on your own login. And if it does, it will email you a code, which is just what I'm retrieving now. But you can as well have things like custom forms set up. So now when I'm logged in, I have got the option to leave feedback, and this is a custom form. And again, all of that is configurable in the back end, and that's covered within the Web Builder functionality workshop session as well. Final workshop we run is on the user account. So this is where you get an overview into all the different patron account functionality that's available, and you can decide what features you want to enable and such like as well. So it's just a complete overview of everything that you see on the page there. Now, finally, we do have a further 2 meetings with you as part of this implementation as well. And they are our pre and post go live meetings. So just before you go live, and remember, as part of the project planning meeting, we scope out the implementation timeline so we know when you're going to go live. So this meeting will be scheduled in advance of that. And we just go back to the progress spreadsheet. We just make sure if there are any issues remaining, whether we can close them off, or whether actually they have to maybe go on to support ticket after you've gone live if for any reason, or maybe they're just things that you're still working on. We also, at the pre-go live meeting, make any other changes to your existing legacy OPACs before closing it down, essentially. And we just run through some community things. So we talk about our Aspen user group here at PTFS Europe, and your project manager will just make sure you're familiar with all the different communication methods as well. So subscribe into the weekly newsletter and know about the community meetings and so on. And then once you have gone live, a follow-up meeting will take place just to sort of complete your implementation. So it is still with the implementation team. And it's just, again, just to go through any final issues and to identify if there's anything needing refreshed, if you're needing any sort of top up with anything. And then finally, what happens is once you have gone live, you're just put onto our support desk, and you can log tickets as you would expect, as you do with Koha if you're one of our Koha customers, and your account manager would remain in regular contact with you thereafter as well. So that's it. That's how we manage an Aspen implementation in your library. Thank you very much.